Stanley, today's a really big day for us all. We've announced our partnership with Columbia University, your organization, and Target ALS. I think what you're doing is incredible, targeting nano-rare forms of ALS. Can you tell me a little bit about Silence ALS, this brand new partnership that we've announced?
Well, it's a product of Target ALS and Neil Schneider and what we've been doing at n-Lorem. And in this case, it's focused on the very, very rare, what we call nano-rare mutations that cause ALS. And many of those nano-rare mutations are unique and uniquely awful. They often affect much younger patients. They're much younger people than one expects with ALS. And they're typically very aggressive. And so these are folks who really have nowhere else to turn.
For people watching at home, so that they understand, how do you go about finding a patient who has a nano-rare mutation? So let's say it's an ALS patient, they've gone to the clinic, they've explored all avenues, and it's unclear. How do we get to the point where we realize it's a nano-rare mutation?
Well, that's one of the tragedies of our time. With genomic sequencing now, we can identify mutations that are disease-causing mutations, but the vast majority of the nano-rare patients are never diagnosed. They never find their way from an entry-level physician to a tertiary care center that can perform those sorts of genetic tests. And so I would say that the vast majority of nano-rare patients succumb to their disease without ever knowing why their lives are shorter or less robust than the lives they see around them. And that has to change. And if it's a genetic diagnosis and it's a mutation that we can address with our technology, then we exist to treat those patients.
Sure. I think that's incredible, the technology you've developed. So it's based in ASOs. Can you explain for people watching, what exactly an ASO is, and then what your technology is to create that personalized medicine and create that personalized ASO for those nano-rare patients?
Well, you know that most drugs for the 120 years of the modern drug discovery and development industry are small molecules designed to proteins. But the protein code is enormously complex. It's 20 amino acids, so it's like English. But the genetic code is wonderfully simple. It's 4 characters. It's like the Morse code. So more than 3 decades ago, I began an effort to create this technology called ASO technology. And it was to a large extent driven by the need to have a much more efficient drug discovery method. So an ASO is a small piece of chemically modified to engineer good drug properties into them, piece of genetic information. And we use that genetic information to selectively target a site in a target RNA that is in the business of making a disease-causing protein, and then we can alter that target RNA in a number of different ways. Sometimes we degrade it, sometimes we change the metabolism of it, sometimes we use a different type of design to actually use elements of that RNA that control translation to make more of a protein you need.
I think it's incredible that we're here at the Target ALS Annual Meeting and dealing with an orphan disease, and we know that approximately 30,000 Americans have it. That's a small population, and your organization goes even further, so much further, just to treat patients who live 1 to 30 patients.
Yeah, these are patients that really are not candidates for commercial development. There's no path to commercial approval, but even if you could, to make financial sense of it, you'd have to charge these families tens of millions of dollars a year. And we know that the healthcare systems in most of the developed economies are stretched beyond their capacity already. We can't add that kind of burden to the healthcare system. And so n-Lorem is designed to avoid that. We're giving these things away for life, for free. It's doable. We've already helped 14 patients We have, I thought by now, we're 2 years in, and COVID, I thought we might have maybe 10 applications for treatment, and maybe we'd be moving toward treating a patient or two. By the end of this year, I think we'll have more than 200 applications.
Wow,
and
fantastic.
We have had the opportunity to treat 11 ALS patients, the FUS ALS with Neil, Dr. Schneider. And we've approved for treatment now 61 new patients, and that's going to grow.
Terrific.
We know that while each patient may be unique, there are millions of these.
We made the announcement today, and I guess my last question for you would be, so what's the vision? You told me all of this great development, but what's the grand vision?
Well, the vision is to blaze a new path. This has never been done before. Every step we take is a step into the unknown. And there's a phrase that Jefferson coined for Lewis and Clark expedition that I've always admired. It's the core of discovery. Mm-hmm. And I think of n-Lorem as a core of discovery of this space, mm-hmm. which is an unknown space, and it's a space that's going to teach us so much about health and disease, and teach us how to get to it earlier and do a better job of treating. So it's to blaze that path. It's to show that we can scale up to meet the needs of tens of thousands of patients, and that as that path is laid out, then as other technologies mature and can follow us, they'll follow that path. So, and for me, it's been wonderful because I've all these years missed seeing patients, and this is now much more like practicing medicine, one patient, one family at a time. And yeah, it's a small dream, one patient, one family at a time, but that's a pretty good way to change the world. And
yeah, you're helping the people who need some of the most help.
And you think about creating a future for a patient and changing the future of a family, because these diseases don't affect a patient, they destroy families.
Yes.
And you do that one patient, one family at a time.
Yes.
And that's not a bad way to end my career, I guess.
I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I know on behalf of Target ALS, we're very happy and proud to partner with your organization. And thanks for this conversation. I think people watching will really appreciate understanding nano-rare mutations and what you're doing, what this incredible initiative is. So thank you very much.
Well, and thanks to Target ALS, I think it's taking a lead, and other patient advocacy efforts focused on other diseases will follow. And so it very much is helping us blaze this trail too.